All right, good morning. I'm John. This handsome fellow over here sitting next to me is T. This is the Life Roast, where we invite viewers like you to take a peek outside the box, get a little uncomfortable, and challenge the social norm. If you're ready for that, we got a good one today about being triggered. Triggered and offended. And so this is today we're going to dive into where we have come to as a society where every little thing sets somebody off. We have to walk on eggshells everywhere we go, where society expects us to change everything about who we are to appease everybody around us, to make sure that everybody's comfortable, to make sure everybody's living this happy-go-lucky life, and everybody's called things that you don't even know that they are, and all this stuff. You change everything about your vocabulary and your thoughts overnight to make sure that nobody has any emotional damage or scars throughout the rest of their life.
Right. Yeah. It just triggers me. This conversation triggers me. There's all this social pressure right now to be everything and to overlook things that we were taught as children to, not accept as the norm or whatever. And, whether it's right or wrong, it's not what we're sitting here to decide on. I think what the conversation today really stems from is the emotional state we've grown into as a society, and that everything offends us and that everything puts us feeling like we're not being treated right and we have to watch our words. And it's funny because years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, it was the term was political correctness. It was, you couldn't use certain words anymore, and you had to watch what you said. You had to be politically correct. And now it's to the point where someone just makes something up and then tomorrow it has to be a standard rule. There's no handbook. It might be something for any of you entrepreneurs that are watching, that create a handbook on terms and terminology of what's accepted and not accepted in these days. So it's, the media doesn't help. They personify the stupidity of things we're supposed to accept. And the more you listen to it, either you start to fall in line with the belief that, yeah, we should do this, or to build the walls up against, again, the stupidity. And obviously you can tell where I stand on this, in accepting whatever it is we're told. So I think part of being triggered is, what is your foundational understanding of what you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be, why you're supposed to be, and then what gets you to the level of being so friggin' angry that someone doesn't agree with your mindset. So I figured I would do this first because we always say we should get some kind of facts here. So again, went to the internet and I pulled off what is to be the definition of triggered.
Which one?
There was multiple.
Well, I looked it up because so many.
You obviously have to have multiple definitions because someone may be triggered by the fact that my definition is not correct. But triggered, cause to feel an intense and usually negative emotional reaction. Triggered people often feel guilt or anger at themselves afterwards. So essentially, they're saying it's kind of dumb because you get triggered by an action or something gets you going, but later on when you think, God, I really blew that out of proportion. But then let me go on. It says here, when we are triggered without awareness of our emotions, we react in a certain way out of habit. Our typical emotional reaction is developed because we have a need or want for some conscious or unconscious thought. Well, when I read this, I'm thinking, I don't know what the hell that means. But somehow we've built up this mindset to believe in one side or the other. And if the other side comes at us, man, the claws come out and we are ready to go. Don't know why, but go ahead.
I don't know why either. And this is one of those, I feel the mentality of I don't care fits in really well here because, I go through my life and I get being triggered, right? Like there was a point in my life where I was weak-minded and anything would set me off and I'd go off the deep end and my behaviors reflected that, right? And so I've experienced this, and I look back and I'm like, you know, what the hell was wrong with you, right? Like anytime anybody would say something that would potentially threaten my beliefs or threaten my identity, then that would be enough for me to fly off the handle, right? And I look back at it, I'm like, somebody threatened my identity. So was I insecure with my identity? Somebody threatened my beliefs. So was I like insecure about my beliefs, right? Because like I look at this and I'm like, why do words matter so much to us that we are willing to literally fight and divide and do all these crazy things because somebody said some words or didn't say the right words or whatever, right? Like, why do we let these things control our lives to such a degree that we're literally like, we're in a time and age where I think like this is one of those topics where talking about it's going to set off some people.
For sure.
Right? Like that's just the fact that we're like calling this out is that we have to talk about this is insane, because we live in this time where like every third person is getting offended or triggered by something. And instead, like back when you were talking about like back when political correctness was a thing, right? And I still use that word once in a while. You know, people would just suck it up, right? If you didn't like what somebody says, you just didn't hang around with them. Right? Like if you talked in a way and didn't use certain words or used other words or whatever, and we didn't get along, we would just go separate ways. Right? Like I just wouldn't hang out with you. Now I got to make it a mission now to put you on blast, try to catch it on camera and call you out on social media. And, right? Like I see all the posts on Facebook. Oh yeah. Right? Where people are complaining about the being triggered at a restaurant or being triggered by something that happened at school or whatever. And it's just like, why is that just literally destroying your life right now?
Right. And I think the word that pops in my head, and I've had this argument for years, is the word fair. Is it fair? You know, it's not fair that this person, or it should only be fair if we get to all do something, and and that's when I sit back and I'm like, there's no such thing as fair. There's a fair happens to those who want something or need something or are willing to work for it. And, you know, because Johnny, our favorite guy, if Johnny works harder and he achieves more and he gets more, and someone says that's not fair, bullshit. Like, I don't get it. So you're triggered because he said something or he did something or he went the extra mile and you didn't. So you find some way. And that's probably a shitty excuse or example. But the idea that I'm shooting for here is like there's this internal madness or in the person that's triggered. And again, you're right. Have I been triggered? I don't know if that's the term in my head. Like, okay, someone's pissed me off. Right. Yeah. But going back to our personalities of I don't care, I give myself a little bit of time to think about it. Be like, yeah, I don't care. Okay, thanks. That's your thoughts. Appreciate it. And sometimes I'll defend it. And I'm stupid, and my wife will tell you this, and my brothers and sisters will tell you this too. Devil's advocate. Sometimes I just like to poke the bear just to get you going even more. So if you show me you got a little bit of emotion, 100%. I'm going to go even further and see if I can push you right over the edge in a fun, loving way. And then obviously when I get to that point, I'll try and bring you back with some humor. But I want to bring up a couple of definitions, because as I was looking up triggered, it started to make me, think of all the politics, and we're not going to get into the nonsense of what's going on with politics. But there were a couple words that constantly are thrown out there. And the two that stand out were dogma and gaslighting. And I thought, okay, I know what the terms mean just based on all the shit that we hear on TV and the news and podcasts and blah, 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 blah. Right. But dogma, a fixed, especially religious belief or set of beliefs that people are expected to accept without any doubts. A dogmatic person is someone who is unwilling to accept ideas or opinions contrary to their established beliefs. I'm like, well, if you feed a person a bunch of shit and information and they've now made that their mindset, and they're not willing to accept someone else's thoughts, whether they're factual or not, I think they're going to get triggered. And then I thought, well, okay, so the dogma is the belief. Well, how do you get the belief? And that's where I jumped into this gaslighting, because God, that's on every friggin' news channel. Everyone's gaslighting. Like, the word by itself is dumb. But gaslighting, to manipulate by using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning. Gaslighting is the action of repetitively lying to someone to manipulate and ultimately control them and their relationship. It could be divided into 4 different types: outright lying, manipulation of reality, scapegoating, and coercion. And I think, turn on the news. I don't give a shit what side you're on, whether you're on the liberal side, the conservative side, from a political sense, from a whatever. If you watch the same, I should say, the different channels or the different sides about the same exact story, you wouldn't know what story to believe.
Dude, totally different facts.
Complete opposite. So I guess that's gaslighting, which then creates this dogma of events, which essentially triggers me. And I think, okay, I'm still highly confused right now. We're being fed a line of horse shit that we pull into our system, make it our belief, and then we'll fight tooth and nail just because it doesn't align with this new thought or this new process of what we believe is right and wrong.
Well, no, so that's actually one of the things that I did when we were going into this is I got on and there was an entire article talking about the reason why people get easily offended and easily triggered, right? And a lot of it came down to, and actually one of them was like self-centeredness.
Sure.
You know, self-centeredness and lack of self-awareness at the same time, which was kind of funny. But it also came down to what I was talking about originally is the insecurity in beliefs. And especially in today where, like you're saying, I think we turn on the media, whatever it ends up being, whatever channel media it ends up being, but we take in the information and immediately create a belief, right? And then because it's such a soft belief at that point, right? Regardless of what it is. I mean, you could take any major thing happening in the world and the instant you create that belief, it's still a soft belief. You don't really actually have any subconscious reasoning to justify that belief. So anytime anybody challenges it, right? Because you want to be, you know, firm in that belief, you want to create that belief and you know, ingrain it. Somebody threatens that and you immediately get triggered by it, right? Because you're trying to defend something that doesn't really have any substance. And the only way we know how to do that is through anger, right? Because who's in the position of power when you're angry? You are, right? And so we use that as the expression of trying to get across that we know what we're talking about. We have this belief. This is the right belief because we have it and we just learned about it yesterday and all this stuff, right? Like, and so that was one of the big ones, right? Like that insecurity, that self-centeredness. And I'll go back to the fact that now everybody else has to believe the same thing, right? Like, and that's the self-centered part, you know, which blows my mind, man. Like, I don't like how can I possibly have a thought? I have the right to that thought. I have the right to that belief. But the second that you contradict that, you're not allowed to do that. Right. What makes me so fucking special that I get to believe something and you don't? Right.
Well, I think take that. Is the word triggered? Obviously, we get triggered, or we get upset, we get whatever. But it's the we're in a society now where everyone gets to be the preacher. Everyone gets to stand on the stage and say what's right and wrong, and they get to profess it. And if you're not listening, well, then we'll come up with some friggin' other classification that you're a racist or you're a sexist or you're a xenophobe or whatever, all because you didn't agree with my thoughts. And that's where it's like, wow, how did we get here as a society that everything bothers us? I mean, years ago, religion played a huge, huge factor in people being triggered. I just remember being kids and growing up on Long Island and okay, there were 2 religions where I grew up, just 2. There was Catholic and Jewish. That's it. There was no non-denominational or Baptist or Protestant or the 47 religions we have now. But there was always this, I don't want to say it was a tension because it was never a tension, but the Jewish kids and the Catholic kids and whatever, and we all got along. But then when it came down to religion, someone wanted to argue. I'm like, Jesus, this is stupid. You know, we're going to go out and we're going to play and we're going to do lists, but someone would put some bullshit in our head like, oh, the Catholics are this and the Jews are that. Like, dumb. Like, why? Why would we even get triggered? And why would we get into this? So it's like we've been built to worry about someone else's thoughts or someone else's actions when at the end of the day, if we step back, and I wish sometimes we could do this, just pull ourselves out of our body, float up and stare down at the situation and go, huh, this is friggin' stupid. Like, I lost my shit over something that someone said. And if I added up right now and said, okay, I've talked to this person never. I met them at a bus stop and they started spouting off about something and da-da-da-da-da. And now I'm screaming back at them because their beliefs don't align with my beliefs. And maybe I'm just nuts.
Well, dude, sometimes it even goes more extreme than that. Like, that's it, the violence behind some of this stuff is insane.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. You brought up manipulation. I think it's fun. There's this quote, and I love it because, you know, it says, if you're easily offended, you're easily manipulated. Right. And I feel like that's kind of like where we're at as a society, where we have all become so offended by everything. And now we're able to be manipulated by the social peers that we keep around, right? Like the media, all that stuff, right? And so now that you're easily triggered, all you have to do is turn on the TV and somebody's going to justify it. Somebody's going to validate it.
Sure.
That's it. Right?
What's the Tony Robbins talks, the reticular activating system?
Oh, yes.
I mean, for those that you don't know, it's like, you know, if I say red cars, you know, and I constantly repeat to you that today you're going to see a bunch of red cars, and man, red cars are great. And holy crap, if I could buy a red car, well, I've said red car multiple times. Now all of a sudden you'll go around and you'll see red cars.
Oh man,
everywhere. Like, you'll never realize how many red cars are out there. There's a ton. Well, that's the reticular activating system, part of your brain. Well, I think what happens with the whole triggered mentality is we absorb information that we believe is true. So everywhere we go, all we hear is the same information that we already have the belief system. So it's just a reinforcement. It's a reinforcement. It's a reinforcement. Like, everyone must think like I do because that's all I ever see. That's all I ever hear. It's amazing. The algorithm in my social media seems to always send me the same videos about this, this, and this, and this. It must be everyone's thought process. So I'm just normal. But it's like, no, you've just reinforced your thought process. The social algorithms gave you more stuff because you like watching stuff like that. And it's not that it's reinforced you. It's going to give you ads and it's going to sell you some shit because this is what you like. And they know that you'll keep coming back and it feeds their engine and blah, 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 blah. But now that I've got this reinforcement, I've built up this story in my head that's even bigger. So of course you're friggin' wrong when you tell me, you know, this is that. And then, like, what are you talking about? You're so outside the norm, like bullshit. And I'll defend it all day long and I'll fight with you.
That's a good point. And man, I really want to, we're going to have an entire episode purely on the algorithm of life, because that is a whole topic, right? And just like the social media and the validation and the justification and all these things that the RAS, insane stuff. Like, but that's an entire that's an entire thing. But I don't think people realize, and this is the thing, right? And so on that thing that I was telling you about, that article, they were talking about low self-awareness being a part of why people get offended. And I think this is the reason right here, because like, this is real stuff, right? Like, when you look into psychology unbiased, right? These are the things that you find, right? But we would rather not be aware of that because it's easier.
Sure.
You know, and so, and I'm an asshole because I'm bringing up the point that there's literal stuff here that like defends the argument that being easily offended is for X, Y, and Z. We don't have to be that way, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just, it's funny. I see it and I can't help but laugh because I look at my life now and it's just, man, somebody calls me a name. No. Right. And I want to bring up this point with that because like the I don't care mentality. I think one of the other problems with this about being easily offended and triggered and like letting our lives be ruined by this is like a lot of people just don't have a purpose anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. Life has gotten so easy. We don't have anything to focus on. Right. People don't have these ambitions anymore. People don't have a lot of goals, right? And you know, like when you're focused on a goal, when you're focused on the thing that you're trying to strive for, like you're trying to achieve things and you become kind of obsessed with it, hopefully in a positive way, but you don't have time for all the petty little discrepancy and the differences and like, oh my God, you don't have the same beliefs as me. I don't care. I have somewhere to go. I have things to do. I have people to see, stuff to, I have a world at my disposal, and I'm going to sit here and fight with you over like whose God is cooler or better or handsomer or,
Right.
you know, what words to call me or not call me or, you know, it's like, I don't care.
Right.
I have stuff to do.
Right.
I have a place to focus in so much of the world because everything's gotten so easy. Everything's gotten so like, there's really no reason to think critically anymore. Right.
Well, and I think a part of that is, you're right. Whether it's thinking critically or it's that I need it now, so I'll ignore, but hold on, you're a roadblock because I thought I was going to get something and now you're a pain in my ass. So I need to defend it. I need to be upset. I need to change I need to do something. And it just made me think of this. And I won't say who I do this with, but usually it's family members or it's whatever, it's friends. And I've been trying to come up with the word, and I'll call it mental fiction. And mental fiction, you know, you've all been there where an event or an action or something will happen. Someone says something, and internally we become this award-winning author of a story that we make up, and we build walls around it, and then we build another floor, and then we build another floor, and before you know it, we have a skyscraper of a story inside of our head that has no factual evidence, but the fact that we've added thoughts and like, oh my God, and if he did that, then he must have done it for this reason, and come to think of it, 3 weeks ago when I saw him, he said this, and they did this, and da 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 da, and now you're internally triggered where you're angry with the person and they don't even know what they did. And I see this with family members, and I see this with friends or colleagues where if they would have just asked the question,
oh man,
you know, they could have got the truth, but nah, let's build this story up in our head, blow it out of proportion. And now when the person walks in the room, you just rip them to shreds because you were triggered 3 weeks ago, but the story now is grown over a number of days and weeks and whatever. And like, what's the story and what's the evidence and what's this? Why don't you ask the question, or why don't you just look at the situation and say, do I really need to put this much time and thought into it? Like, I'm going to ruin my days over a mental thought? Like, ridiculous.
Too much time to think.
Way too much. or like you said, if you don't have a purpose, if there's not a goal, if there's not a destination of where our life is, like, we allow ourselves, and I met some guy that called it the ricochet theory. We allow ourselves to be bounced in a different direction without even fighting back to go, no, I don't need to waste my time with this because it has no bearing on where I'm headed. It's just a little blip in the road, just, you know, like driving over a pothole. Yeah, you ding and do whatever, but you still keep rolling forward. And I think that's where these trigger individuals allow their emotions to just take over usually a situation. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. I'm going to take that a little further because this is something that I study, and I don't want to get too serious here, but there's you mentioned Tony Robbins, and through his course, actually, he talks a lot about like the 6 human needs, and this is something that would actually be interesting to look up if you want to. But one of the things there is that to be able to emotionally connect with ourselves, everybody tries to find the path of least resistance.
Sure.
Right. And I think in this generation, a lot of people aren't really connected with themselves. Right. And so there's this crazy 8 pattern that starts happening. And again, look it up. I don't want to sit here and explain it because it's ridiculously long and complex. But you look it up and we go through this process of where we feel disconnected with ourselves. And what's the fastest way to get connected with ourselves? We get a little depressed, sad, whatever. Right? We instantly emotionally connect with ourselves. Well, then we start feeling powerless because we get depressed and we find something. What's the fastest way to start feeling powerful? Get angry. Right? And so that sense of significance we gain from being angry. So we go through this pattern, right? And I think one of the things here is like we get triggered and we get offended and we get angry about all this stuff because we feel powerless. Right? And I'm not saying that's like a coverall. I'm just saying that's one of the things that like psychologically goes into this whole thing is where we start to feel powerless, helpless, whatever. Well, let's change that. I feel insignificant, so I'm going to get angry. When I'm angry, I'm significant to you.
Right.
Right? You're paying attention to me. I am now in your face. You have to address me. Otherwise, if I'm not angry, I'm nobody. I'm nothing, right? And so to be somebody in this world of everybody, sometimes I got to get angry about a lot of things in order to be recognized.
Right.
You know, we all got to stand out. We all got to be individuals. We all got to be unique. And I, you know, to a certain degree, I get the whole significance thing, right? Like I like to be significant in certain aspects. I like to have an authority in certain areas of life. So I totally understand it. But like we take it to such an extreme that like we literally find anything and everything. And you talked about the RAS, right? We literally find anything and everything that supports our claim to be angry now,
right?
To be powerful, to be in a position of the spotlight, right? In the world of I don't even know how many billions of people there are, right? But like we all want to stand out,
right?
And so like there's that. It's just there's so many reasons behind it. Well, but it's just like I don't know.
I think a part of it, and you nailed it with the significance. You know, we only get so many shining moments in time to stand out, do whatever. And I don't know if it's a standout thing, a conscious standout thing, but we want to defend our beliefs. We want to do whatever, and for that matter. And again, God, you're going to learn from us. We care a ton, but we really don't care. I've lived my life on the fact that, is it worth the energy to prove something that in the big picture doesn't matter? It really doesn't. You know, whether you want Biden or you want Trump or you think Catholic's great or religions or this or whatever, black, white, I don't care. You know, it's the old saying, at the end of the game, all the chess pieces go back in the same box. That's where I look at triggered, and I use this with my kids a lot, and I use it with everything. And you'll see this from all these motivational speakers, that life's about choices. It's the old choice. We have a choice to do so many different things. What I choose is I choose my own destination, and I can immediately say, is this going to change my destination? If it's not, I just move through it. If it is, I will defend my ground. Most of the time, it's not worth it. It's like you said, it's people's words. If they're that offended by me and they want to stand their ground, you know, it's even more fun, me be a devil's advocate. Two words. It's the greatest words ever to stop a conversation or a fight. You're right. Now, internally, you know they're 100% wrong based on your own personal philosophies and beliefs and knowledge and experience and whatever. But okay, great. You proved your point. You fought with them for 45 minutes. You got it across. You think they really listened, or you both got tired of fighting with each other? But you know what? You're right. Now what?
Dude, this is purely an ego thing, man.
Sure.
Like everybody wants to be right. I have to be right, because if I'm wrong, then I'm inferior. I'm inadequate.
Right.
I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not, you know, whatever. And it's just like, set the ego aside. Who fucking cares?
Well,
who cares, man? Like why?
Right.
How? And here's the thing, right? Like, and how is that working out? How's that working out for you? Caring so much about what people say. And you said it, right? Like I do. I care a lot about people, and I'll say it over and over again. I care about people. I don't care about what people think. Right? Yep. Unless it's positive, right? I want to inspire people. I want to motivate people and all that stuff, right? But like, who cares?
I think a part of it is that people care too much, and I never want to bring up people, but here's a perfect example. And this goes back to me just being a douchebag, because it's just fun stirring the pot. Social media is the greatest to stir the pot, and people don't realize it. But I have an uncle. We'll leave his name out of it, by marriage, and he's awesome. He's great. But he tends to go more to the liberal side. I'm more on the conservative side. And if the man called me today, anything I had is his. Love him. But online, he is this liberal advocate, and I know he is. And I love posting stuff that I know is just going to get him going. And there's the back and forth, and there's the back and forth. And it would seem that I'm triggered because of the way I'm defending myself, but I'm literally doing this 99.9% this just creates some great drama, because then all my other friends are in on it. And then before you know it, there's 85 posts. And when you look at the original post, we're not even on it. Now everyone's just arguing.
Man.
But I still look at it and go like, wow, I just threw out some stupid shit that I made up, or I found some news that I posted and add my own little, extra gas to the fire, and it got people going. But I still bring it back to this uncle, that it's like, as angry as he may be, and I know he'd do the same for me, like we'd still be there for each other. regardless of our thoughts and how angry we got on the thing. And again, I don't get angry. Like if I'm angry, watch out, because I don't get angry. But I still sit there and say, I know I hit his nerve. I know I hit lots of people's nerves. And I think, we have no overwhelming effect on how we would change, whether it's politics or religion. But man, we believe like we can pull the lever and everything changes by just our attitude and our arguments and our beliefs. And like, no, you may ruin a relationship because you're such an idiot with your thoughts.
That's it's honestly hilarious.
Yeah,
that's great, because I see it happen all the time. Like I'm the guy with the popcorn, just like reading the comments, right? Because I see these posts and like somebody will say, and I know the person, so I know that they're kind of like they're just being facetious, right? They're saying a point, but they're like just being a dick about it. And you got 30 people just instantly jumping down their throat, totally off topic, just for no reason. And here's the funny thing, like you asked earlier, it's like if you would have just asked the question, right? Like if people would just know, right? Like if they had actual insight into the relationship between the two people talking, like they'd know it was a joke. Right. But like they immediately just jump to the defensive and start going on these rants about stuff you typically end up off conversation. It's just so like we don't know the whole story of anything.
Yep.
And I think that's like maybe another part of this is like we know so little that like to know things like that gives us that sense of whatever that we're looking for. So like we know this one thing and we have to make sure that we express that. We know it, right? And we find any opportunity that we possibly can to express it. And it tends to be on like Facebook, which is great. Don't stop. Please don't stop trolling people. Please don't stop getting offended and getting triggered and making those ridiculous comments, because it's absolutely amazing. I love it. I'm not gonna like that's one of those things that it's hilarious. Sometimes I'll start to write a response to something, and I'll be like, that might push this person over the. I don't really know, and I'm like, I'm not even involved in the conversation. I have no idea what's actually going on, but it's just great, right? But I don't know, like, and so I want to get to the application part of this, right? With being offended and being triggered, right? And I'll go back to the question: is like, how is that working out for you? Because here's the thing, right? Do you like being angry?
No.
Do you like being stressed out all the time?
No.
You like being pissed off at other people?
No.
You like not connecting with other people?
No.
You like letting everything divide you, right? Like how does being offended and being triggered by everything help you in life? And if you are one of those people who can sit here and honestly say, man, I really don't like being angry. I really don't like being pissed off all the time. Man, I wish I could do something about this, right? Like that's what this is trying to do, right? Like is to bring that out so that we can all start getting along again and not walking around on a world of eggshells, right? And getting past all this tiny pebbles in the water, right? Whatever, I don't know the expression. I was going to say some awesome expression, totally messed it up, but but like, right? Like the application is focus on something better, right? Like if we have purpose, if we have a destination, if we have these things to focus on, like none of this stuff's going to matter in the end. Right? When I'm 6 feet in the ground, I'm like, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm totally going to look back when I was 30 years old and somebody called me some name or said something that contradicted my beliefs or whatever. Like that's totally what I'm worried about in life.
Right.
You know,
so let's take your thought there. And this is something we're trying to work on now is, we can sit here and rant and roll and opinion, but how do we take what our discussion is and learn from it and move forward? So I want to say this from a triggered standpoint. And this is one of the reasons why I think I don't get angry is I try and find humor in everything. Mm-hmm. And I think in this situation, if you feel yourself getting to a point where you're, and I don't want to use the word, but I guess it would be if you're offended by the thoughts or comments or actions of someone else, if there's really not a direct assault on you personally, but it's more of just an overwhelming thought process that's entered your bubble. Can you step back before you make a comment and say, I wonder, and whether you want to think of my bald ass or not, I wonder what T would do here. Because I would find the humor in it and be like, oh, wow, you said that out loud. Like, what do you mean I said it out loud? Like, well, you just Like, oh, this is really strong. But like, you're adamant about this. Well, yeah, I'm pissed. I can't. Oh, well, now I know. Okay, this person's easily offended, so I'm going to either pour gas on this fire and really get him going, and then finally let him off the hook and just go, I'm just kidding. I don't give a shit either way. Or just go, okay, this is not worth the topic of the discussion or the air I'm about to breathe. I'm just going to move on and say, yeah, right. And scratch it up to, wow, avoided that situation. And that could be anything. I mean, I will say there is conversations that I've been sucked into with family members where they start down a path, and I just excuse myself from the room because I know this isn't going anywhere, but just everyone's going to get upset. And guess what? Don't have to be a part of it. Conversation over. I walk away, and the situation's been extinguished, and there's nothing to go on. And this is one we're going to get into with family members, because this will be a big trigger is the holidays. We're going to come up on the holidays and who gets to go where and who goes to whose house and how much time, and it's not fair. And then people get upset and they take out their calculator, and guess what I say? I don't care. Like, you built the story up in your head as to why we're at certain locations and why we're here and why we're there. We're not coming, or we'll be there for an hour or whatever. But if you want to be upset, be upset. Build that mental fiction in your head, but I'm not going to be upset. So learn from me, I guess, if I'm the sensei or the tutor. Like, what are you getting that upset about? Like, let it go.
Fair is a swear word in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There is, and I guess there is no fair. Fair is in the eye of the beholder. Is it fair? Is it fair that someone won the $1 billion lotto? I put $20 down. That's not fair. I should have got some of that. Like, what? How dumb does that sound? Is it fair? Like, you don't get me started on that. We should write a whole thing on
That's
fair.
a whole thing. There you go. There's another topic.
But again, from a triggered standpoint, I want us to learn something here is you are only allowing yourself to get into a situation where anger becomes your part, where you are now set off to feel like you have to defend something. And unless, again, you are personally affected, meaning your bubble has been pierced, a child in your situation, whether it's physical or verbal or there's abuse, I don't really know why the hell we're getting so upset by societal nonsense, to read stuff on social media and you're like, that's bullshit. And the keyboard warrior comes out in you and you're just like, well, hold on a second, because you should be able to do this and you should be able to do that. Like, get it. Like, type it out. Yeah, I mean, get it, man, because you proved your point. Nice job. What? Delete. I don't need you. Unfollow. You're a pain in my ass. Oh, you're a friend from high school. You're whatever. Like, delete. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah. I'm almost out of words for this.
Well, here I'll go on this thought, and this is where what triggered. If people are upsetting you, stop talking to them.
If it's that serious.
If it's that, I mean, social media and the news and all this stuff and all this stuff, turn the channel.
Stop watching.
Turn it off. Yeah, stop watching it. If it's getting you to a point where you're like pissed off, like, what are you doing? If someone constantly posts nonsense that doesn't believe, delete them. Yeah, but what if they see? What if they're offended by me? Like, you kidding me? Like, delete them.
Who cares?
Run a life that's better. Hey, if you have a heart attack, the doctor's going to say, what do you eat? What kind of lifestyle do you live? They're going to add all this stuff up and go, no wonder why you had a heart attack. Okay, here's what you need to do. Stop eating the shitty food. Stop hanging around people that are negative. Stop getting, your job's stressed. Okay, we're going to have to find a new job. Like, everything that says, okay, this is how you don't have a heart attack anymore. Well, use the same application. This is how you don't get triggered anymore. Stop hanging out with the assholes that trigger you. Stop reading the posts.
Well, this is the accountability, the ownership, the personal responsibility side of this, right? If being offended is basically saying, like, being triggered is basically saying, I don't have control over my emotions, so I need you to do it for me, right? Like, I need you to be in control of my emotional well-being, right? And so one of the key things here is, like, just take that back. That is your power. I get to decide how I feel, how I respond. Right. And that, talk about feeling powerful, dude. Like understanding that I get to control how I respond to things now, because I can create this gap between stimuli and response, like that self-awareness and being able to do these things, right? Like these are things that I'm not saying it doesn't take practice, right? But this is part of the application part. Sometimes it takes some practice of doing things repeatedly over and over and over again. You might jump back and you might, I still get pissed off when some people say certain things because I think they're stupid, right? Sure. But like 3 seconds go by and I'm like, you know what, whatever.
Right.
It's not that serious, man. Like you got your beliefs. I got my beliefs. Like either we're going to keep being friends or keep having this relationship, or it's that serious, right? Where like, now I think you're really stupid, or now you think I'm really stupid or whatever. And we just can't do it anymore. And like, that's okay. We're allowed to like go our separate ways with people, man. Like we don't have to grab so tightly to every relationship that we have, just because, regardless of how uncomfortable it gets. Comfort, like how uncomfortable are you willing to get when it comes to this stuff, right? Like you're already uncomfortable. You're already pissed off about everything. Get a little uncomfortable and start developing some self-awareness and these tools and these practices of being more at peace and fun going and enjoying life, right? Like that's how you stop all the bullshit. Stop paying attention to it. If the majority stop paying attention to all the nonsense, I guarantee you it would go away.
Guarantee it.
If the problems didn't bring so much attention, they'd disappear overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think John and I are building something on the side of this. It's this playbook thing. And really what it comes down to is purpose. What is your plan in life, and how do you follow along? And it really evolves around sports. And if you take the football analogy, you know, there's 11 men on the offense, 11 men on the defense, and each of them has a role. I think what happens with Triggered is if the play was to run a sweep to the right, the lineman has a certain block, and he's supposed to block this guy, and that's all he's supposed to do to make this play work, whether we get 3 yards, 5 yards, or it's gone. They go down for a touchdown. But I think what happens is the lineman is supposed to block this one guy, but he's more worried about looking to the outside, and he's not paying attention to his block. So he misses his block because he's not paying attention. And then all of a sudden, now he's arguing and he's yelling at people because blah, 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 blah. And the people up in the booth are now looking down at the field going, well, you missed your block, dumbass. Yeah, but hold on a second, because this guy was this and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, hold on. All you had to do was block this guy, but you were more worried about something else going on the field, that you weren't focused. And I think that's a big part of why we get triggered is, and I've said it before, is there a purpose of what you're trying to do in life? Do you have a plan? Do you have a goal? Can you focus so hard on that these outside events don't affect you? Or are you so focused on the latest issue or something that happened or someone said something because you just don't have a purpose. You don't have a goal. And I think that's a big part of this is if coach tells me your only job on this play is to hit that dude right there and knock him on his ass, I have no idea what's going on the field. Why would I? I only had one goal, was to knock that dude on his ass. I hope everyone else did their job, but I won't be able to look at that until later on. And I think we get so overwhelmed by bullshit around us because we don't really know what we want to do or where the next step is or how we're supposed to proceed. So we just follow what everyone else is doing. And thus we get offended.
Just whining and complaining about everything.
Right. And again, that goes back to choices. Yeah. I have a choice. Okay. Instead of getting triggered, ask yourself, what brought me here? Like, does this hold value? My famous line, Tom Hopkins wrote it, and I think I've said it in previous ones. Don't take advice from anyone more fucked up than you are. Like, is this person spilling information or doing something that would enhance me or detract from where I'm going? Either way, I have a choice. So make the choice. Argue, but argue because it's worth the argument and there's going to be value.
You can actually affect change.
If they're willing to listen and you're going to have a conversation. But if they're a stone wall and you're a stone wall, well, waste your time and breath and energy, but know that you're just going to come out probably more upset. For what reason? Not worth it. You make the choice, move on. Like, yep, you're right. Nope. Sorry, wrong mindset. Whether you're 100% right or not. Like, you're right. Conversation over.
And I miss being able to have like deeper conversations because we're willing to argue.
Sure.
Positively.
Right.
And actually potentially learn something.
Right.
You know, I think that's like the great thing about arguing, right? Like, I might actually change my beliefs.
If you're ready.
That's totally okay,
if
man.
you're willing to listen.
Yeah. You might actually convince me if I'm actually open to it.
Right. Right. So I think that the big part of our conversation today is this. Like, think before you speak. Think before you react. How do you think? Maybe ask the question, is this worth the energy I'm about to exert to prove something that probably has no value long term? Do you need to get that upset? Do you need to scream, go F yourself to the guy that just asked to sneak in on the road because he missed his turn? Or maybe he's just an asshole and he just wants to dip in front of you because he can be one car in front of you. Okay, honk the horn, speed up faster, close them off, do all that stuff, flip them off in the car. You know, now you got road rage going against each other, all because he got one car in front of you, and that's bullshit.
Damn,
like, man, that changed
breaks
your
my
life.
heart.
Right. Like, or maybe the idiot's got a gun and maybe he's willing to shoot you because you cut him off or whatever. Or just hit your car with his car.
Like, I think that's the point, is like, people just don't think about this stuff.
No. They
just react. That's it. There's no like logical train of thought. Mm-hmm. It's just response, reaction. That's it.
All over.
It's nothing.
Nothing measurable. Play the camera above where you're at and watch the scene, and you'd laugh like, wow, so I got stupid angry with that.
If we had like a replay video of life,
it would be great.
Hilarious.
You know, it's like I said, it's the guy sitting up in the booth watching all the players on the field going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, bro, you had one job and you were more worried about the running back than you were about hitting your block. So I think the part of this is, how do we defend triggering? I don't. I guess the only way we can start to change people's minds on it is to change who we are and say, I don't really need to be involved in this nonsense right now. And if you're that adamant about it, go for it. It's not going to change my mindset or anything else or whatever. And therefore I'm going to move forward and not be upset. If you want to pierce your face and tattoo this and change this or lop something off because you have this belief, go ahead. And if you want to preach about it, go preach to someone that cares. I don't. Go find someone else, and I'm not going to get upset by it.
I'm not going to hate you.
Right.
Stupid.
Because at some point you may change that mindset and look back at yourself and think, I was really an idiot, wasn't I? Yeah, you were. But you know what? Doesn't make me love you any less. So that's that. So I want to end on a positive note, and the positivity is this. Make the choice to do right by you and your closest family members. You know, make the choice to create positivity. And you brought it up, positive feelings around you. It doesn't mean you have to be happy-go-lucky. There are bad days and you may lash out, but if you can find it within you to go out of your way for other people and listen. And if you listen. Don't just wait until you get your turn to say, but it's like, truly listen, give them the opportunity, find their strength, you know, show them, okay, I heard what you're saying, and okay. But to just get angry shuts down everything. Walls get put up, and now we don't like each other.
Nothing can grow from that.
Nothing positive comes from that. So, last thoughts? Anything?
No, that's it, man. I think that was the note that I'm okay ending on. That was a good one. But I do want to say, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and the little ringy dingy bell thingy. That's the notifications thing. Yeah,
yes.
Make sure you turn that on, because then otherwise you won't get notified when awesome videos like this come out, so that you can keep up on them. So subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you're triggered about in this video, because then we have something to do.
Or give us, better yet, in the comments, tell us some silly things that you've seen trigger other people, I just want to see, because
Yes.
you know, we're talking about high level things. Love to hear what triggers you. It could be family members, it could be stupid events, it could be whatever. So just let us know. It may be a topic for the future.
It's good. Awesome.
All right, guys, have a super great
Enjoy
day.
the rest of your day.
Peace.
Bye.